Okay, so we've spent a hell of a lot of money over there in Ukraine. Figures from 100 billion, 200 billion to 350 billion that Trump, I think, just tossed out the other day. People are arguing, well, I don't know, it's that much. It doesn't freaking matter. We have spent more money in Ukraine than we should have. That war never should have started. Zelensky was told not to take any deal with Putin. And this is why we're still in this fight. We're in the fight, whether you like to believe it or not. So
Mhm.
we need to figure out all the money we've sent, all the weapons we've sent, everything that we've sent over there, and half of it or more is unaccountable by Zelensky. I don't know where it went. I'm just a little midget guy who's pretending to be a dictator of a country because we're corrupt. And that's basically what's happening, right? So
That seems like what the writing is on the wall.
yeah.
That wall right behind me.
Oh yeah. I don't see much. Right. Okay, there it is. Had to put the
Exactly.
black light on it just to see it. Anyway,
Let's
God
dive
knows
into
what
this.
else was on that wall with the black light showed, but anyway, yeah. So we got a little midget dwarf guy who's pretending to be a dictator, who is so respectful. He comes to the White House in his freaking jogging suit, just about, or whatever his shirt is. I don't think I've ever seen him in a suit more than once, maybe
I
twice.
don't think he was. I don't think I've seen him on any of it, but he was GQ enough to go on Vogue.
Oh
What
yeah.
was a Vanity Fair, shit like this. I did see him in a suit, actually in his Netflix style uh, show that he was on.
Yeah.
Um, and oddly enough, that show was about an actor who becomes president.
Oh, yeah.
And
We
see
haven't heard
how
that story
yeah, see
before.
how fairy tales kind of
Yeah.
mirror true, real life?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought that was pretty funny. And I saw some clips about that last night, and he wore some suits in those clips. So that's the only time
Wow.
that I've seen him in suits. But yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, yeah. I think he said because he's in wartime right now, so he needs to
Yeah.
represent like he's a man of the people. Anyway, we'll start talking about this and see what might be up Trump's sleeve and everything else. So let's get into this. Okay, how's everyone doing today? Welcome to the Rude Barn Podcast. Who's my buddy? Who's my buddy right there? Right over there.
The Rude.
The Rude. And I'm the Barn. Welcome to the Rude Barn Podcast. We are going to talk about Trump and Zelensky. I'm not going to dive into this way too much. Everybody's seen a million videos on this of the big argument, the big spat, the big disagreement. And we really kind of want to talk a little bit more about some of this stuff. And some people say, oh, Zelensky was a hero and well, Trump was a bully. But Trump, I think, in all fairness and honesty, I just think he was pretty much standing up for America. And
Well, you've got
don't
you've
let
got
this
your
guy get away with it.
yeah, you've got your MSNBC, you've got your CNN, you got your ABC News. They're all touting it as, quote unquote, the one of the worst days in American history,
Oh, God.
or is this going to be what? And just, I mean, it's their same, it's their
There's the
same.
MO, same MO.
Yeah, their same MO, their same song and dance.
Yeah.
Anything Trump does, obviously they're gonna try to dig in on it. And you have a lot of these followers, and again, the sheep, the drones, who just believe anything
The
that CNN
minions.
tells them. They're going off and saying that there's this whole new push. We stand, or the rest of us stand with Ukraine.
Oh, God. You
My
mean one of the
problem
most
is
corrupt countries in the world? You mean you're going to stand with those MFers?
right. And
Oh,
and I'm like, you're gonna stand with Ukraine, and I've already seen these stickers coming out. You
yeah.
can buy these stickers that says "Save Ukraine." You know what I mean? And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Because you look at it, and just like you mentioned, there is a huge percentage of this money that is absolutely unaccounted for, and he refuses to account for it. So you've got this huge chunk of money that God knows where it went. And I've heard stories, I've heard whispers that it went to go, pay their statesmen, their salaries, their pensions. They're buying new houses, boats, vehicles, all this kind of shit. And okay, but you're saying, let's save Ukraine. We stand with you. So is that the kind of stuff that you're supporting and standing with? Is paying these pensions? Is furthering the warmonger here? Because my theory is that that as soon as we stop giving him money and these pensions and these lavish lifestyles that he's promised these statesmen so he could stay in office and not have them overthrow him, when that ends, then he's in trouble. He's
Yeah.
in big trouble, maybe even fear for his life trouble. And I think that that's why
I'm guessing
he
that.
he feels like
Yeah.
he has to come in and try to be, the cock of the walk.
Yeah.
Well, he could do that with Biden in that administration, because that administration, they figured that, I don't know how they were getting paid off the war, but they had to have been getting paid off
Dude,
the war.
they were getting
All the
kickback galore. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Barn, and all the while, you got people in North Carolina at the same time. What was that big last one? He sent 500 million right after, like 2 weeks after.
After everyone was supposed to, they announced, hey, we're going to give you $750. And then they
Yes.
send all this money. I think it was
They
$6
said
billion.
they said FEMA had no more money.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
you
We're
had
out.
6 billion or whatever the number was to
They pulled
send.
right out of their ass and sent over to Ukraine.
And so you're telling me that's what you stand for?
Oh,
You
yeah.
lefties, that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
that's what you're trying to save in Ukraine? That's what you're
Yeah.
that's what you're backing, huh? You're not backing us taking care of our own people. You're
Yeah.
backing
Your neighbors, your friends who lost everything in a natural disaster, but we're fine sending more shit over to these effers over there.
Well, and that's kind of it bothers me, because that shows the entitlement of this generation
Mhm.
who is speaking up now in politics, that don't know shit and have never experienced the kind of tragedy that that requires, help from the government. You know what I mean?
Right.
Help from FEMA or anything like that. So they've never experienced that. They've never been around it. It's never touched them. They're, keyboard warriors, and they want to throw out these messages. I think it's uneducated. I think it's,
It's apathy
irresponsible, and
about,
it's fucking stupid.
yeah.
Barn, it's stupid.
Well, okay,
Dumb.
because here's the problem. This is why they think this way, because they've got their little cell phones. Okay. They can get
Mhm.
on the interwebs anytime they want. They've got their internet. They've got their clothing on their back. They got food on the table. They've got things that are working. So, hey, it doesn't really affect me. So I'm going to be a social justice warrior and say, hey, we've got to help Ukraine. They're awesome. And blah, 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 because those are the talking points that they've been indoctrinated to say. And that's why until you get people kind of hurting, until you get people who are kind of missing out on the usual shit that they expect that's going to happen every day,
Mhm.
I can fight for them. Like, oh, gays for Palestine. It's like, well, it's like that type of thing. It's like, well,
Mhm.
you do realize that if you're gay and you go over to Palestine, you're not long for the world.
Yeah,
I'm just
you
letting
won't
you know, you're
you
not
won't
going to
be around.
last very long.
Yeah, and
So, yeah.
go ahead.
No. So I was just gonna say, but that's the problem, and so this is why you have everybody. Oh, we stand with Ukraine. Really? Well, let's just see what happens if your house was the one that got destroyed by a hurricane or a fire, and you were waiting for help, and the government couldn't come in and save your ass because we've spent all this money over there.
Mhm.
It's just brilliant. So these people have to
Well,
suffer. In order to realize, oh, well, maybe my stance being with Ukraine, not
well,
the greatest stance in the world.
to take it down even simpler, Barn, is what has Ukraine done for us
What have they done for us lately?
that we owe
Should be a
them?
song. Yeah.
That we owe them this much money, that we owe them military backing, that we owe them equipment,
I
and
love
we
how
owe
they
them
say
that.
we owe them. Yeah.
See, and that's the mentality
Hmm.
that Putin or Zelensky came in with that
Yeah.
we
Oh,
owe.
yeah.
So then he tries to put his feet in the cement and say, well, before I sign this, I want this, this, and this, and this is what we're going to get into today. And he found out really quick that you don't try to negotiate a deal that's already written up that all you have to do is come in and sign.
Yeah.
You don't try to negotiate that with me real time. When he requested the media there. We didn't request the media. He wanted the media there.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Interesting.
and
Mhm.
because he knew he was going to pull this stunt. He knew he was going to pull this stunt.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh, yeah.
guy is fucking transparent yeah.
Yeah.
A wet fucking sheet.
I think we can all agree that Zelensky is a trash piece of shit. Putin is also kind of a trash piece of shit, but he's got a little more sense in the world and can be negotiated with, like Trump is trying to do with him. He's
Right.
not his buddy. You don't try to negotiate with somebody by calling them all sorts of names. Oh, this dictator piece of shit is gonna. Hey, Putin, now let's negotiate this deal. Wait a minute, you just called me a trash piece of shit, and now you want me to go? They're not going to happen.
Yeah, no, you don't do that. That's not
You
how
know,
that's not
but
how
that's
this
why. Yeah, that's why Trump doesn't, put down Putin as much as he's doing with Zelensky. Zelensky is just a zit on the back of your neck.
Well, to be
It's
honest with
annoying.
you, I hadn't done a ton of research on Zelensky until after this, after this blow up in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
Um,
which
but
was epic. I loved it
oh
actually.
yeah, it was great. It was a little hard to watch at some points because I was
Yeah,
embarrassed for Zelensky. Like you
yeah,
know how you get that secondary embarrassment for people?
yeah.
Like I was
You
so
kind of feel bad,
embarrassed.
like, oh
Oh
shit, I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah.
ganged up.
I was like,
Vance
oh
and
dude,
Trump just laying into me. Yeah,
dude, Vance was like a pit bull. Um,
yeah.
but but um, but the thing was, so I felt bad when he went to go try to, when he went to Russia and he's talking to Putin about getting this peace treaty done, and they left Zelensky out. I was
Yeah.
like, why did they do that, man? That's kind of fucked up. Like, what are they
What did they know
plotting?
we don't?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what do they know that we don't?
yeah.
Now we know what
Mhm.
I didn't know before
Yeah.
is Zelensky is really a trash human.
He's horrible. So here is a gal. She's a TikToker. I think you found this video for us, and so I'm going to just set this. And she's going to just say the Trump and Zelensky meeting breakdown, and kind of go through it a little bit. We have got a couple other things. We're not going to do a big deep dive. It'll be just a little bit. This will be a shorter video. Kind of get through this, but we thought it's topical. It's happening. It's time. We need to kind of get on this as well and kind of give our 2 cents and go with it. So here's this gal talking about this, and let's hear what she has to say.
The only reason this toddler was at the White House in the first place was
Toddler,
to
love
sign a
it.
dotted line saying they were going to pay the United States back the billions of dollars we have sent them in their rare
Hundreds
earth
of millions.
materials. But this whiny pants did a deal in bad faith. Why, you ask? Because he started asking for more demands before he signed it, such as send the United States troops to our front lines so they can fight for us. Do you know what that means? That means that we're going to war with Russia. Yes. And we don't want to go to war with Russia. This is not our war to fight. This is not a winning war. If you worked out a deal to be signed, commit to it and don't make more demands. That's just bad business. The whole thing was live and Zelensky knew it. You don't go to someone's house looking like this demanding more money. And the liberals are saying, I stand with Ukraine. Okay, are you not standing with America?
No,
America
they're
is
not.
not against Ukraine. We have sent them billions of dollars to the point where they could build Ukraine again if they wanted to. People are just trying to say, oh,
No, but we're gonna have BlackRock do that because it's BlackRock.
Yeah. So everybody gets paid.
he's
Yeah.
trying to look like he's fighting for Ukraine on the front lines. He's been on the cover of Vogue twice. You really think that he's trying to look humble? This man was a Netflix actor in Ukraine. Ukraine was also supposed to vote for a new president last year, but since the war's going on, Zelensky said, actually, no, you don't get to do that.
Can't have
I'm going to be in
elections. Yeah.
charge until this war is over. Starting to sound a little bit like a dictator.
Yeah, because like I said before when we were talking earlier, it's like, well, what's the best way to stay in power? Not allow people to vote you out.
Hmm.
So There you go. I think she nailed it. Hit the nail right on the head with that nail that she nailed in there. Nailed it.
Yeah. She really swung that hammer, and it's true. I mean, you look at the black and white of the situation, and yes, obviously, we
Let's
don't
not be
know
racist now.
exactly.
Come on. Let's not be racist.
we don't know exactly what gone on, what was said and what's gone on behind closed doors. But from what we're seeing, you know what I mean. This is brass tacks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just get down to nuts and bolts of the whole
Yeah.
situation.
Let's wipe all the bullshit out of it and
Yeah.
and look at just really kind of what happened. And I think, like you said, that she nailed it. And we have a little bit more.
Yeah. So this guy talks about how Zelensky blew it. I haven't seen this, so I don't know exactly what he's saying. I don't know if I agree or disagree. We'll talk about that right at the end of this. But he brings another good point, apparently. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but we're going to see what he has to say. And I think it might bring another little perspective that people can take home.
Fluid. The 40-minute disaster that changed everything. Most people only saw the last 10 minutes of the meeting, but for 40 minutes, Zelensky had a deal in his hands. All he had to do was stay focused, lock it in, and walk away with new commitments from Trump. Instead, he freaking blew it. Instead of securing support, he kept pushing for more, ignoring what had already been negotiated. He made absolute demands. No negotiations with Putin. Russia must pay for the war, acting like he was the one calling the shots, but he wasn't. He wasn't even reading the room. Trump, who had already committed to military aid, made a simple point. Peace is impossible if you refuse to talk. Then J.D. Vance pointed out Biden's name-calling didn't get us anywhere either. That's when Zelensky snapped. Instead of staying cool and getting the deal, he turned on Vance, got combative, started challenging him in front of the press, and that's when it all fell apart. Look,
because he's a little dictator, and
Well,
so he
that's
wanted to show how how big his cojones were.
that's the thing. He went in there with an ego,
Yeah,
and his ego got shattered because we said, fuck no.
yeah.
And then
You
what
go fuck
happens? Then
yourself there.
then
Yeah,
you feel like you're pinned into a corner, and then you start, throwing punches and,
yeah.
and trying to
I just
scratch eyes out.
I don't get these people that think Ukraine is such a hill to die on, that they want to
Right.
sit here and say, "Oh my God, Ukraine's awesome. We shouldn't mess with those guys. Let's help them out. They need the help." This shit never should have happened.
We never should have gave them money
Yeah,
in the first place.
yeah,
When this started, dude, and then they said they were giving them money, first thought in my head is like, why the fuck are we giving them money?
right. Well, you
Why are we
remember,
giving them aid?
yeah, you remember when we told Boris Johnson, the old Prime Minister of the UK of Britain, to tell Zelensky, "Don't make a deal. Don't
Mhm.
make a deal. Go to war because it ain't going to happen. Don't make a deal with Putin. He's blah blah blah." They told we could have had this thing stop. And Biden and the administration told them to continue to go ahead with this and push this. And then they provoked Putin even more by saying, well, Finland and Sweden are going to get um, what was it, NATO status, and then they wanted to get Ukraine NATO status. Well, that's the big thing that Putin doesn't want. I don't want NATO on my doorstep. I want a buffer. I want to
Mhm.
just stay just far enough away. There's no reason to put Ukraine in NATO. I think we're the ones footing the bill for all this shit, and it's Europe who we would be protecting, and yet how many times has Europe kind of turned on us, and how many times has Europe not paid into the UN, not paid into NATO their fair share as a part of it, and we still get screwed, and yet we're still, oh, okay, you didn't pay your fair share, so well, let's still be friends. You're screwing us, but we'll still be friends.
Dude, out of everybody in those organizations, we pay the most and
Yeah,
we get the
the
least.
least.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
and I get a big brother situation, or you know what I mean, where it's like, okay, you're in trouble again, I'll help you out. But the problem is there's never any turnaround. There's never,
Yeah.
okay, well, since you helped us out, we'll do this for you. There's none of
Yeah.
that. It's just gimme, 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 gimme. And then, these our administrations, even the stronger ones that we've had, they still fold and say, okay, because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings in the organizations. And I think they're both bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sick and tired. I'd rather see a deal where instead of paying these yearly dues, monthly, however they're doing them, that we just say, hey, look, Europe, um, we'll have your back. but we're not paying into this military protection racket every month that we're paying more and you guys aren't paying a dang for. But we'll make sure that we're your ally. We'll back you up just like we're doing with these douchebags in Ukraine. And
I don't have
do
a
it that way.
problem with standing on, say, okay, these are our allies, these are our allies, these are our allies. I don't have a
Right.
problem with that. But with
because
these
we can always cut
organizations
ties the second they
screw up. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump back in and see a little bit more of what he was talking about.
Look, Trump expects respect. You don't walk into the White House as a guest and disrespect the host. Whether you like him or not, he's a seasoned negotiator, not some clueless EU bureaucrat. He gave Zelensky a shot, but Zelensky, hyped up by the bad EU advice, overplayed his hand and got himself nothing. This isn't about who won the argument. It's about the fact that Ukraine walked away with nothing, no deal, no commitments, and no progress. And at the same time, it's being reported that back in Ukraine, Zelensky's own parliament was moving forward with an impeachment process against him. Think about that for a second. But here's my question. Was this just bad strategy, or was it something bigger? Did Trump set a trap, letting Zelensky self-destruct so the world can see he's not fit to lead? Or did Zelensky, pushed by self-serving EU technocrats, warhawks, walk straight into a disaster he never had a chance of winning? Do they want him out, but want to blame Trump and not take responsibility? It wouldn't surprise me, because things are seldom what they seem. Either way, here's the reality. This war keeps going. More suffering, more destruction, more money for the people making billions. In the end, wars don't end when leaders fight. They end when they lead. And this was either a wasted opportunity or a chess move.
I mean, it's true. Think about it. It's like, what was his point for keeping going? He wants to kill more of his people, which apparently he seems to not have a problem with, because back in 2014, this is when they started killing their own people in the Donbass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they even let a bunch of people in Crimea go, which is why they had no problem letting Russia come in and take over Crimea back in the day. And then then you had the Azov Battalion, which is code for Nazis, by the way, because they really are Nazis, killing their own people. They have let this kind of genocide of their own people happen, and we're supposed to be, oh, Ukraine, you're so wonderful. They're the biggest corrupt motherfuckers in the world. Oh,
right.
Did I say that? Mother truckers, what I meant to say.
And people don't go back and look at, their history of, like you said, crimes against their own people, and really trying to do backdoor shit. And it's been going on for a long time. And now it's kind of coming to a head, because, I mean, you got to figure, if this war goes on any longer, I would say it's only going to last maybe another month or two, and then they're going to be completely annihilated, and they're not going to have anything left to build back. You know what I mean?
Well, they're taking people off the streets. Have you seen the videos of that?
Yeah,
I don't have them up right now, but
taking people off the streets to go fight on the front lines.
Yeah, they got like 2 or 3 guys in military fatigues coming up to somebody waiting at a bus stop. You get on the bus to go to work. Some fighting age man, and mind you, fighting age in Ukraine is anywhere from like 14 to 64, because they're taking these men off the street and they're fighting and kicking and scratching, trying to not go, because they all know what's going to happen. I'm going to die.
Exactly. It's a death sentence.
I'm going to die.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. So Ukraine is kind of a piece of shit country. I mean, not the country itself, the leadership. And it has been the leadership. The people are probably wonderful people when you get just like everywhere else. And quick side note, I've got a buddy that I work out with in from Iran, okay, or Iran, however you want to pronounce it. And it's just interesting, because I said, I've heard things before about Iran, that the people really kind of embrace Western culture, America. If you go to Tehran, they've got Tiffany's and Gucci and Armani and everything like that. They're pretty well westernized, and the women don't walk around with the burqas or the other head coverings and things like that like they do. They do, but most women can walk around apparently without that.
Yeah, it's not law.
And it's like, it's the mullahs, it's the government, it's the people who are running the country that have the issues. And I've always said that as a little kid. I said, why are we as a people, we have in America, why are we supposed to hate such and such and such just because the government leaders don't like each other? I think the people are fine. And it's borne out to be true. And that's what he said. He said, well, I was going to try to have him on and have him talk about it. He says, oh, I better not, because I still have family back there and they will go after my family because they'll know me, facial recognition, whatever. If somebody actually does see this, if more than 3 people watch this video, it could get out there. And so I said, totally understand. Maybe another time we can talk about stuff like that, but I don't want to put you or your family or anybody else in harm's way. And that's what's going on here. I think the Ukrainian people are good people, which is, I think, maybe part of the reason why, we stand with Ukraine. Well, that's great, but you're not distinguishing the difference between standing with the people of Ukraine or standing with Zelensky and the a-holes who are running the country.
Well, what they don't understand is that more money and more aid to Ukraine from us is not going to help their people. I mean, going as in they're not putting that in the people's pockets. They're
Yeah.
not
Right.
they're not putting it into aid for their people. They're not doing that. They're taking it and they're padding their own pockets, and that's the
Right.
problem. Like if they would if they were showing what kind of aid they were giving their people and what kind of services they were creating and shelter they were creating with all this money that we're giving them for their people.
Yeah.
I get that. I can get behind that, right?
But it's never going there. It's not.
But
It
it's never
will
going
go
there. And that's the problem. And
Yeah.
yes, I heart out to the average Ukrainian person that is being ungodly affected by this is something
Yeah.
we can't
Oh,
even
yeah.
imagine, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's their government's fault. They're causing the problem. And God bless the people, but I mean, there's not much more we can do because your government is not using these funds correctly, and they are they're creating this situation for you. You know what I mean?
Well, and they're allowing their young men to be killed off, and they don't care because they have a different agenda. And what is that agenda? Money laundering. They want to take what is given to them so they can better themselves and put themselves in a better position. Here's another industry they're creating that I don't think we thought of. Mail order Ukrainian brides.
Good God.
Well, when you have 1 million of your young men, there's a lot more women available. And I think that's going to be another industry that's going to grow, because you always see the Russian brides. Well, I think the Ukrainian brides.
Yeah.
I tangent off. I'm just saying, keep an eye out, but you might see that. Anyway, so there's got to be another end game, which is what we're talking about. Like, why were they trying to do this? I mean, what's the point? And why are we trying to get in there? And why did we get in there to begin with? And it started, like we said, at least in 2014. But I think you mentioned something. You saw something that started like in the 90s, that this shit with Ukraine was starting to roll. It was starting to boil up and get running.
Mhm.
And so Ukraine has been a situation
Yes.
for the world for decades.
Yeah.
At least 3 decades.
At least 3 days. Yeah. Our whole lifetime, almost, they've been an issue.
Yeah. And we've created, it hasn't just been them, but we've encouraged it. This, that, and the other.
Right.
So now I think we've heard little things where, I think we've all heard that they have riches of minerals, rare earth minerals, things like that in the ground. They are the breadbasket of Europe. They provide the wheat and the farmlands and everything to feed a lot of Europe and the world. But underneath that, apparently, are these rare earth minerals and other minerals that who wanted to tap into? I think Biden and his administration and even Obama back in 2014 knew about this, and that's what they wanted to tap into, which is why they got us into this whole situation.
Yeah.
Speculating, of course.
Speculating, yeah. Well, and let's preface this
you know.
by saying the money that we've given them, they were gifts. No loan payback situation was ever
Right.
discussed. So there's no loan payback situation, and I gotta ask, like, how does our government justify that? Where's our paper trail? What are we saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? Just to freely give them this money and come
And
back
with
here.
no return or
Yeah,
anything.
no
Yeah.
return. No, who does that?
We don't.
So
No. Nobody does that.
nobody does that.
Come
You go
on.
to
Oh,
your
here.
local bank, you go to your credit union, you go to your father-in-law,
Right.
ask him for $5,000. Your
Right.
father-in-law is going to want it back in a year. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or less.
And if
that's
you're
kind
lucky, not charge you interest.
exactly. Nobody gives free money.
Right. Yeah.
So there are underlying, there's backdoor deals going on that we don't know about, and it could have been this mineral stuff.
That's what I've been hearing. That's what I've been hearing. So here's a report that maybe answers that question, that maybe makes a little more sense of why Trump wants to do it. It's like they didn't get it done with Biden because they wanted to drag this out. They wanted to get this money laundering thing really rolling or something. I mean, why drag this out longer? I mean, military industrial complex makes more money because we keep sending our weapons over there. So they're making it. We're still charging taxpayer dollars and sending our money over there. So I think Trump is finally saying, you know what? Well, screw that shit. Let's get a little something back for this. Kind of like what they were talking about in the war in Iraq. You know, get the oil, get cheaper gas because, well, you know what? We want that dictator Hussein out of power. You know, and we're going to lose American troops over that. Well, let's get something out of it or something. So I think this might be part of the reason that Trump was trying to do the deal. Zelensky fucked it up as usual because he's a little dictator and he just didn't know what the hell he really was doing, and he's just a puppet in this whole thing. So let's listen to what she has to say. We have got a couple more on this, and then we'll wrap this one up. We don't want to spend too much time on this one. Here we go.
Trump says the U.S. and Ukraine are nearing an economic agreement that would include access to Ukraine's mineral resources.
This was right before their big meeting,
Trump's
by the way,
first full cabinet meeting today. He said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will come to the White House later on this week to sign that deal. Let's take a listen.
President Zelensky is going to be coming on Friday. It's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement, which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. Really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things. And as you know, we're in for probably $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion.
All right, so let's bring in our expert, Yulia Joja, more on this deal. Yulia, thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us what we know about the deal and what's in it for Ukraine?
Hi, Liz. First of all, thank you for having me. The question is what is in the deal and what isn't. The initial proposal, from what was rumored in the media, included like a debt that we were imposing on Ukraine, which was not at all fair because we helped Ukraine because we deemed it in our national interest to help Ukraine defend itself.
Why? Why was that in our national interest?
How is it in our national interest? Because if anybody can explain that to us, how it is in our national interest. I love how they use it's like with the vaccine thing. Oh, we got to use emergency use authorization because we can't get it through. We got to push it through now because it's in the national. But no lives lost. How is this in our best national interest?
How is giving them $6 billion right after a hurricane in our own country that devastated American lives? How is that in our best interest over American lives on our own soil? You tell me that.
Yeah. And then she says stuff like, well, we're the bad guy for wanting a return on our investment now.
Yeah. That's horseshit.
Yeah. Let's just listen to a couple of seconds more of her, and the propaganda that she's spewing forth.
So that from the draft that has been published so far by Ukrainian media as well as Western media has been removed, that debt issue. But what seems to be in there for the United States is that 50% of the revenues from the exploitation of natural resources.
Exploitation
Really?
of natural resources. So now we're exploiting Ukraine even more, which is probably not far from the truth to begin with. But the way she's putting it is now, it's not that we exploited them before during the whole war of these last 3 years. It's now Trump is exploiting her or them, excuse me, to get the rare earth minerals that will supposedly make a 50% profit beyond the 350 or 200 or whatever number it is billion that we've sent over there. So we expect to make, half in addition profit. We spent 350 billion. We're expected to make 475, 500 billion, whatever it is, depending on the number you use. But we're exploiting it. We're exploiting. Okay, just a second more, and
Makes no
we're going to
sense.
move on because this is just unbelievable.
This particularly rare minerals is going to go to the United States, which is a pretty fantastic deal from the United States perspective.
And Trump also said that Russian President Vladimir Putin is very smart and cunning, but they will also have to make some concessions in this deal. What kind of concessions could those be, do you think?
Well, that's entirely unclear. And at this moment, I see one deal completely divorced from the other one. This deal that President Trump is talking about is a deal for the resources on Ukrainian territory that are to be exploited in many years to come from now. But it does not include any security guarantees for Ukraine. And that is the reason why President Zelensky is probably now on his way or making his way to here to Washington, D.C. to discuss with President Trump.
Yeah, and then we know exactly what happened after that.
Yeah, well, and that's the kind of whole thing. Like, I don't, what they're not saying, and what I think she blatantly lied about is in that deal. What happens in that deal? Because and Trump said it's about the minerals and other stuff.
Right.
Okay, so there's other stuff involved, which my guess is, and this is my opinion. This is our opinions.
You're just guessing. You don't know.
We're just guessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My guess is that it's security and boots on the ground to hold that security. In those areas,
our American troops on the line. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to put our American troops on the ground. So,
which is what they wanted from the very beginning anyway, and they're trying to circle back Psaki and get it around there so they can get the boots on the ground from American troops as one way or the other. They want to get them there.
Well, and I understand our position too is not letting that cat out of the bag, because then what's Putin going to say? Oh, well, you have you have boots on the ground and you're going to be fighting against us.
Now you're provoking Russia.
Right, now we're provoking, and that that's not good. And okay, well, let's not put nuclear warheads on our missiles in the silos that we have off the border there. Okay, it's fine, we won't do that. But there's a lot of things that go into these things that, like, people like this, they're not going to report on. She used the word exploitation wrong, number
2 or 3
one,
times at least,
and purposely, number two. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Deliberately. Yep.
Deliberately. Yeah.
That's why I called it out. I had to stop that and
yeah.
I'm not gonna hear you, little weasel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's jump to this other little video from our friends out of Sky News Australia, the Aussies. They have it. This is a couple minutes long, but we won't play the whole thing. But this might talk a little bit more about it, and we'll jump to the next one. We want to get this wrapped up.
All this focus on rare earths, critical minerals, in part, it's because Donald Trump wants to generate a little bit of money in terms of
and why not
all of that aid that's been given,
paying back. Yeah,
it's because Ukraine has been providing lots of information about potentially exciting minerals they've got under the ground. This is a mineral map of the country, and if we just zoom in here. In particular, there's one place, a deposit here, it's a former Soviet deposit going back to the 1970s, where they say there's a lot of rare earth. Now, rare earths are really important. They're in a suite of elements in the periodic table. They're used in magnets, they're used in military applications, so they matter a lot. And right now, the reason this really matters for the US, right now, most rare earth mining is dominated by China. So that's China in terms of the mining, dominating the global supply.
Well, and that should tell you there, right in that little chart, exactly why we want to go in there.
Yeah.
because everything that uses rare earth minerals, from your cell phone to your computers to any electronics and who knows what else, have rare earth minerals. And so we're creating all of these products and paying China for the materials. And we
Mhm.
don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't think you would want to do that.
I don't want
Why
to do
would you
that.
want to continue paying your enemy to create weapons of war or whatever, or commerce with your cell phones, your electric vehicles? Because China's got a big electric vehicle market, by the way, and allow them to bump ahead from money we keep sending them to get their product that we need to create and manufacture our products.
Right.
So this
And
tells you everything. I don't think I need to go any further with the video. I'll leave it in the link. You can watch the whole thing and determine for yourself what else is in there. Let's see. So then there's a report. I'll put this in the link as well. It just Trump is asking for details. It's part of the meeting with the big blow up that it was before or after, I'm not sure when, that the media was asking questions, and then they're talking about the rare earth minerals and things like that. But we're going to end it on this one. This is a message that Trump talked about to kind of end the whole topic here. And like you said, I haven't watched this, but you watched it and sent it to me, and this kind of wraps up everything on what we're talking about. So let's check this out, and then we'll wrap this one up.
And they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin.
I think I mentioned that earlier, didn't I?
Anybody. I'm aligned
Yeah.
with the United States of America, and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with.
And there you go.
Yeah, and then that pretty much sums it up, because I mean, whether or not this is what I think, Barn. I think that our last administration probably knew about the deposits, knew about this kind of stuff,
yeah.
and it was a backdoor deal to give them all the money, and then when the war was over, then they were going to let us in and start mining in their thing. But we didn't want to say that out, or that administration didn't want to say that out loud, because they didn't want to tip off China, or they didn't want any sort of pushback from our republic,
right, from the people, from opposition government members,
right. And for this thing to just kind of pop up, I think that it was found. Yeah, it was found in the dealings that this new administration was looking through, and said, "Oh, okay, well let's bring this to the forefront. Let's bring this, to the stage, and say, okay, yeah, this was a backdoor deal, but you know what I mean. We're going to bring it to the front and say, okay, this is how you're going to pay us back,
right,
and expose that kind of thing." And I think that that's some of those things that Putin Zelensky came in and wanted on Friday were things that were promised to him by the previous administration for this
and he
backdoor
thought that deal was still in effect.
Right.
Exactly.
And that deal is not in effect anymore. And we're not going to give you all this crap, and you're going to pay us back in minerals. Long and short of it. That's it.
Yeah. And there was a lot of corruption going on. There was money going over there. I think Zelensky can't account for probably half of the money we've sent. And he doesn't even know where all the weapons are either.
Yeah.
I think there were, like you said, backroom deals of some sort. Obviously, somebody in our government was getting kickbacks. I mean, they had to have. I don't know for sure, obviously, but somebody got kickbacks. That's why they want to keep this going. This is a money laundering scheme, and somebody's making money. Zelensky's making money. He doesn't want this gravy train to stop either. That's why he's perpetuating this whole thing. And then we've heard things. Okay, well, somebody said, well, Ukraine was provoking Russia to attack. Like, oh, how dare you mention that? No, it was all Putin. Putin was the one that provoked the whole attack and started the whole thing. Was it? Now, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
Was this a 5D chess move by somebody back in the day? Trump's not the only one that can play 5D chess or 4D chess, however you want to call it. But you have to wonder, was, okay, in football, somebody gets in a fight, somebody gets pushed, should be a penalty, should be foul. But it's always the guy that retaliates that gets caught, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's a possibility, I could be wrong, that Ukraine provoked this, did the initial push, Putin retaliated and is getting blamed for the provocation and attacking eastern Ukraine, where it took over because they want to use Putin as the scapegoat and as the reason for us to send weapons and money to Ukraine so that Ukraine can be our personal laundromat. We get the kickbacks. Zelensky gets the kickbacks. Bojo, Boris Johnson, was able to go in and on behalf of the UK, no, Zelensky, you don't take a deal. No deal that Putin does is a good deal. Don't let that dictator tell you what to do, whatever they said, okay? Do you think that there might be a possibility that that was the reason and that the media is getting all crazy? Now, on both sides, conservative and liberal media alike are saying, no, it was Russia that provoked the attack, that started the whole thing. And I just wonder, are you sure that it couldn't be something possible? Like,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past that prick, to be honest.
Yeah. No, he's a greedy little dictator, and so he's gonna try to do what he can to survive, if he survives at this point.
Yeah.
So, well, that's our 2 cents on this, y'all. We think it's kind of interesting, but this goes a hell of a lot deeper. We're merely speculating at the fact that this might be what's going on. I think that getting the rare earth minerals in retribution and in kind of repayment for the money we've sent over there, and let this little prick know that this wasn't money just given to you. We don't give you hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever the number is you want to throw out that it was actually. Even if it was just $1 billion, that's not a gift that you don't have to pay back somehow.
Right.
Your father-in-law wants his $5,000 back.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, thanks, gang, for watching. Please check out the rudebarn.etsy.com. We're selling some merch there. And then we have our friends at the Bearded Viking doing some mead.
Yeah, check us out, beardedviking.com. You can get mead shipped directly to your door. There's tons of flavors. There's a new flavor out right now. And we also have a hooch finder. So if you are in the area of our distribution areas, then you can pick it up at grocery stores and liquor stores. So yeah, exciting.
Real quick, but thanks, gang, for visiting us today, and then please check out our next video, and we appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we've entertained you a little bit, had a good couple ideas, and made you think about a couple things and question really what's kind of going on with this whole thing. So we appreciate it, and thanks for joining the Rude Barn podcast today. Have a
Question
good one.
everything, gang.